So, hi, Mike. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, it's my pleasure.
No, it's a real treat to have you on. And I know we've kind of been in touch for a couple of years or so now. So it really is great to have you featured on our episode. So for those of you who don't know you, love it if you could perhaps do a brief overview and an intro of your background and who you are. And then we can obviously follow on with a few more questions.
Sure. So my name is Mike Konstantinidis, and some people wrongly think that my last name is a little hard to pronounce in English. So anyone can reach me out, can call me just Mike. I studied some centuries ago mechanical engineering in Technical University, but I spent my whole career and my life and devoted in the digital transformation and this revolution that already somehow disrupted all our lives, literally. And recently, the last 6-7 years, I was focused on the maritime industry. And the digital transformation powered by artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, big data, artificial intelligence, which is namely machine learning, and which brings this huge game-changing disruption in this industry as well. Recently, I joined ZeroNorth, a leading company.
Congratulations! It's fantastic news.
Thank you very much. There is a leading vision at ZeroNorth and very strong shareholders. And I think we're going to do very well.
Good, fantastic. And I was going to ask you about that kind of vision that kind of pulled you towards ZeroNorth. So can you just elaborate a little bit on that, if that's okay?
Yeah, shipping is suffering right now by many fragmented software applications, and this doesn't give the shipping executives the one-stop shop, one solution, one platform that they will do their everyday business, and they will be somehow empowered to do their decision making based on real facts, real data, analysis of the actual, and somehow not based on empirical methods like in the past. ZeroNorth is covering a large part of this very big vision, and is always investing and expanding. And this is actually why I joined, in order to introduce the sensors data, the Internet of Things, the real actual data from the vessels. This is one aspect of the whole solution that always needs to be taken into account, because you cannot improve anything if you don't measure it first, obviously. So this is exactly what I'm doing.
Great. Well, good. And I'm glad. It's obviously early days, but I mean, just another quick question, if you don't mind me asking about that. What's been your kind of impression of the culture since you kind of joined ZeroNorth, and perhaps throughout your meetings when you were kind of having discussions with their different team members throughout your kind of onboarding process?
It's a very, very good company, very warm welcome. All the people are really very open and communicative, and I see a very good atmosphere. This company is rather new company. It's only less than 3 years old, but it has a very tremendous growth. But I see that the biggest challenge, which is to have a good environment, good working environment, and people that interact, cooperate. It's a teamwork that is really very encouraging, and it's obvious to the customers as well, to all the partners, that we work all together. This is extremely important.
Yes. Good. Understood. Okay. And you mentioned earlier about the a large part of your career has been in the digital side, even in technology businesses, that type of thing. And I'm really getting a good sense that you tend to be very, very loyal to your companies that you work in, stay there for long periods of time. So, so when you made the shift into a maritime kind of focused business, what was that kind of transition like, going into a digital kind of shipping focused organization, perhaps coming from a background different to shipping without that kind of prior knowledge?
Right. Yes, this is really interesting. First of all, I need to make a statement. In life, it's not that the more strong they survive, not the more rich or the more clever even, but the most adaptable. So we need to be able to adapt. I noticed, and I was challenged by the shipping industry, since it's rather behind other industries, business activity, and extremely maybe profitable. It has their cycles. It's very tough job, the tough environment, and shipping needs to do very fast steps, leaps towards the digital transformation. Shipping has a huge history behind many centuries of thrive. So the people are somehow hesitating adapting new technologies. They prefer to work like in the past, based on rules of thumb, based on traditional thinking. So this makes it even more exciting. Now, how can someone without a maritime-related background can intrude into this traditional industry? Well, I would say by a lot of studying, a lot of reading, a lot of work on to be in line with what those people want, what those people need, what they are lacking, and of course to be able to somehow understand all the terminology, all the specific shipping specific wording and
abbreviations and things.
Absolutely, yes. This is extremely important. Otherwise, they don't accept any outsiders.
Understood.
So I think this is something that you can encounter in other industries as well.
I think so. And you said something really interesting there about perhaps the traditional nature of, I don't know if you're perhaps referring to the traditional ship owners or the kind of other maybe charterers or figures, but do you think perhaps as the next generation of maybe ship owner, maybe if they're in a kind of slightly smaller style, for example, like a Greek or a Japanese sort of ship owning business, as the next generation comes up, do you think they might be a little bit more kind of open to using technology and doing things in a slightly different or more modern way, perhaps?
I would rather say that this is not a question of age.
Yeah.
I've seen 75 years old people that are very, very young and forward thinking. And I've seen much younger ones that are extremely conservative. It's a question of mentality. Many times in my career, I've seen the heirs being more conservative than the fathers.
Okay,
but it's I would say that shipping executives, the ship owners especially, they have proved their adaptability. And this is something that is coming from the traditional leadership of the ship owners. This is a family-run business, and those the mentality of how to react and how to maybe adopt new things is something that probably is one of the secrets of their success.
Yeah, no, I believe so. Okay, so I think we're going to, obviously the focus of this episode is going to be talking about the role of the CEO in businesses and in particular in the maritime software space. So you're the first kind of CEO guest that we've had on that has obviously been in previous roles. And we will have future CEOs as well as guests. So it'd be great to hear your views on what makes a successful CEO, what's a typical background, any kind of tips we can give to helping any aspiring CEOs, for example. So before we go into the main topic of today, just love to learn a bit more about you personally. That's okay. So I was wondering if you could tell us if there are two things perhaps you might be able to share that perhaps people don't know about you.
That's a funny question. Well, I guess I've born in Istanbul, which used to be called Constantinople. That's why my last name. And as a matter of fact, I'm the grandson of the last Byzantine emperor. So wow, you're right. Well, if you definitely need a second one, I would say that I'm a contemporary art lover and collector.
Great. That's good. Lots of, so are you obviously regularly going to museums and things in Athens?
Yeah, and not only, wherever I travel, definitely I visit.
Good. Excellent. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Okay, so let's get started. So in your sort of view, how would you describe the role of a CEO?
I would say that the CEO should be not concerned by details, but have a strategic side. But in fact, what I love saying usually is that the CEO needs to have the side of the alpinist. The alpinist need to see in 300 meters. So he is going somewhere, he is going to his destination, but simultaneously he must see in 30 meters and in 3 meters, because all the dangers and the risks can be just in front of you, so you need to be able to avoid them or to foresee them. But definitely, if you don't have the sight too far, then you never reach any destination. You may do circles in Alps. So this is, I don't say it's easy. I don't say I'm perfect in that, but I think this would be the ideal skill set of a successful CEO.
Okay. And as far as your kind of experience with yourself, I mentioned earlier about having kind of being in companies for a number of years previously to perhaps either work your way up in a company, as opposed to maybe moving in as a new kind of CEO without that background, perhaps, or that knowledge of that company itself. So do you think it's important to have a length of service in a business first before you kind of rise up the ranks to becoming a CEO? Or it doesn't particularly matter perhaps on whether you've worked in the business before, you could still be effective CEO if you come in completely fresh?
The CEO should be a generalist and definitely should have a good or rather good understanding of all the business units and all the parts comprising the specific industry. First of all, we need to bear in mind that anyone becoming CEO at the first time was not a CEO before, right? So every time there is a first time for everything. But yes, I think that it will be extremely challenging, and I don't really believe that those people that they don't have a small or medium experience of all the departments, and especially people that do not embrace the vision of the company, will not embrace the people and the assets that bring the value to the shareholders.
Okay.
I doubt if can be successful CEOs.
Okay. And on that point about vision, so I guess I kind of founded Cordell Beaumont. Obviously, we're a very small business, 5 or 6 of us at the moment. I wouldn't class myself as a CEO. We're obviously not that kind of size of business. But do you think there's a big difference between a founder and a CEO? Kind of the roles are very different, or can they be a bit of both?
Yes, of course. There is a critical factor, critical difference. First of all, I need to make a comment on your previous saying. The size doesn't matter, but the CEO is a CEO, whatever size it is. So it's better that you make your mistakes in a rather smaller enterprise.
Sounds good.
This is actually the definition that Oscar Wilde gave to the word experience. Experience is our mistakes. It's unavoidable, and definitely if you don't do mistakes by chance, maybe you're lucky, then unfortunately you lack experience. So
I agree. I was sort of firsthand from my point of view. I tried to set up my first business, I think in 2012. It was actually nothing to do with shipping or recruitment. It was a music rehearsal studio, a music recording studio. And I unfortunately learnt the hard way about taking out a big loan, putting everything all into one idea, and unfortunately not coming off. So that was kind of what I did between leaving shipbroking and going into recruitment. And I learned so many things from those experiences, and I think it helped me shape, I guess, how I approach setting up this business. So I completely agree with you.
Right. Now, regarding the difference between founder and the CEO, I would say that now we are experiencing and living the age of startups. So the founder is probably a visionary person that has a good concept that is something that makes him enthusiastic about his venture. And of course, he, in parallel, needs to fulfill 4 other factors as well. So the number 1 was the concept, but they need another 4. The 4 being the funding, the business model, the team, so the implementation of his concept, and the timing. The timing is extremely, extremely important. So a lot of founders, they may not be able to achieve all 5 factors quite satisfactorily. Then a CEO may be appropriate to help, to contribute. But if the CEO does not embrace the vision, the scope, the concept of the company, then this leads to disasters. And we've seen a lot of cases in the past in the industry and all the enterprises that this leads to a disaster.
Okay, so I mean, on that point, as far as a typical day-to-day or day in the life of a CEO, how would you kind of describe that to our listeners?
Regarding the day-to-day, I need to share with you the concept of having 4 categories of issues that you deal every day.
Yep.
These are the important and urgent, the important and not urgent, the non-important and urgent, and non-important and non-urgent.
Okay, yeah.
So the successful manager in general, every day does only important and non-urgent issues. If there is an important and urgent, then it's his failure because he left it becoming urgent. So he only needs to do important and non-urgent things. The non-important he delegates to others. So now, how you judge what is important and non-important, what is urgent and non-urgent, this is, of course, depends on everyone.
Yeah, I guess, and what support you have, and obviously who is waiting for your answer to a point. Okay, great. So I guess for those of people that have ambitions to hopefully become a CEO one day, is there any advice or guidance you can perhaps give them to try and give them the best shot of either that promotion or landing that type of role?
I guess, first of all, not all people are good fit for all jobs.
Yeah.
As CEO, I think one of the skills, additional to what I mentioned before, is to be communicative, to be empathetic, to be able to find solutions in every problem, and of course to have a strategic, visionary thinking. I think those skills and those competencies are competencies that you can work on them, you can educate it, you can be trained, you can improve. Everything can be improved in life as soon as you want it, and as soon as you. Now we are living in an age that the access to the knowledge is extremely easy. If you want to learn a foreign language, if you want to learn something about a scientific or anything, it's extremely easy. In the past, people should go to libraries, should look for books or find experts to ask. Now everything is accessible. So, yeah, I think anyone can improve. I don't know how much. If, for example, you are graded to 10, you can improve to 15 or 20. If you are graded to 98, maybe you can improve to 99 or whatever. So, but for sure, we can improve. And this is life philosophy. But every day we need to improve. And what I could share with you is that you never get old unless you stop learning new things.
No, I agree. And obviously, hopefully things like nowadays, you mentioned all the different platforms we have. So obviously YouTube, podcasts, all these innovative things that have been around for a while, but are now really taking off. So it's there's so many different platforms to learn from, as well as speaking to experienced people. Okay. Thank you very much for that kind of review and your insight into what makes a CEO and the type of challenges they face. With regards to I guess, circling back a little bit to the future of shipping and kind of the digitalization of it, what kind of really excites you about that space? Is there anything in particular where you think there's still a huge opportunity and things to progress?
Yeah, a lot of things. I strongly believe that in the near future, maybe not too far as we can foresee, we are heading towards the autonomous vessels.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, crewless as well. But this is not yet, we're not yet there. So all those monitoring systems, all those reporting systems eventually will transform to control systems. The vessels are extremely complicated problems that need to be solved. They are like huge factories, the cargo vessels that are encountering extreme weather conditions, and they have a lot of internal and external issues that somebody has to handle. It's totally impossible for the human brain to be able to digest and to process all those extremely complicated issues. So this is something that the digital technology can undertake. It will take some years until those technologies will be robust and reliable. But then this will be something that, how to sail a vessel will be something that the intelligent systems powered by machine learning technologies will do at the optimum way. Yeah. Today, there is a demand and a pressure by regulations to become more green, so to optimize our operations. This is not only shipping, it's in all aspects of our lives. So this is something that only extremely intelligent systems based on a lot of different sources of data can handle and make decisions on how the vessel should be sailed, in what speed, from which route, and what RPM of the main engine, etc. And this eventually will give us the insights in order to adopt other technologies and to become more and more green, paving the way to the total decarbonization. So all those challenges that I just mentioned in a couple of minutes are being handled right now by a lot of brilliant people all over the world. And I think those will bring the fourth revolution in the long history of shipping as well.
And do you think there'll be more kind of consolidation across all different types of software providers and AI providers? I mean, we're seeing more and more of it lately, but do you think that's a path that will continue? Some of the bigger companies acquiring other, perhaps smaller SaaS businesses and those type of things. It seems to be a real pattern.
Yes, definitely yes. To join forces is the only way.
Yeah.
Small companies and fragmentary attempts cannot go further, cannot survive. So this, after a certain success of any entrepreneurship, needs to be consolidated, need to join a bigger schema. It's not a game for little kids, unfortunately. It needs huge investments. The digitalization, the digital activities are like a bicycle. You need always to be on the move. You cannot stop because you fall. So you need to continuously and pretty heavily invest. You need to have the financial muscles in order to keep going. And then you create economies of scale and you create the way to go further and to dominate the market. This is the only way, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it certainly from a recruitment point of view, and for when we're working with businesses that are hiring, you see more and more there's more alliances and collaborations happening. So sometimes it might make the candidate pool in the future a little bit smaller potentially if companies are kind of linked together. But maybe you never know, you might see a little bit more kind of intercompany transfers, that type of thing. So yeah, it's an exciting space, I think, certainly for us from our point of view. Last question for you. So you mentioned it earlier about kind of your background coming from outside of shipping into shipping. In the past, obviously, when we worked together, that there's been certain roles where you felt like it would be more appropriate perhaps to have a sales professional or some sort of marketing or client-facing team member to come from a maritime background or have some sort of hands-on technical shipping knowledge. Do you think that's really vital in kind of client-facing roles or not so much?
It will be important in any B2B business activity. I don't see a big difference. Of course, in order to continue your career in another industry, you need to make some kind of induction, some kind of onboarding in this new field. It's the same in shipping. Nobody says that you need to have been born in this market or the other to do your next steps in your careers. Of course, nothing is given and nothing will be easy come. Anyone that wants to do something, he must be willing to do some effort, some sacrifices to devote himself on this. And of course, it is possible. And for sure, shipping is very hungry in new blood, new way of thinking, new technologies, young people that are coming from other industries or from other spaces. And this is really very challenging to be able to get new way of thinking, new input, because this is the way that we become better. We need to have out-of-the-box thinking, and this most probably will come from people that are not insiders. And of course, to be radical is exactly to think on another way, on a way that will be, and this exactly creates the disruption. Remember that in the retail industry, we used to have a situation where large retailers seemed to be extremely big and nobody could doubt them. And suddenly one small company, Amazon, created a technology, and after a few years it started growing and suddenly it dominated this market. And now the then huge conglomerate retailers either bankrupted or became too small. And so this is exactly what is happening in the age of digitalization, let's say digital revolution. And this is exactly something that will be happening in traditional business activities like shipping as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights. As I said, it's a real pleasure to have you join the podcast, and also congratulations again on your new position with ZeroNorth. We wish you every success in that, and hopefully carry on, continue speaking to you going forward. If any of our listeners want to reach out to you, perhaps if they have any questions relating to today's discussion, is it okay for them to message on LinkedIn, or is there any other way that's best to contact you?
Sure. They can find me in LinkedIn for sure. I'm present in all social networks, but LinkedIn is a more professional way to catch up and get in touch with anyone that would have something to share. Of course, definitely. I'm open, and I'm always willing to help the youngs to take their critical decisions in life. And this is something that is really very, very nice to do.
Good. Well, I'm sure a lot of people will find incredibly valuable our discussion today. So thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you very much, Callum. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you.